Fantastic. Here we go. Welcome everybody to the Inside Hustle interview series with Joanna Walden, me. And this is a space where we explore the edges of consciousness, multidimensional realities, and the bigger picture of what is unfolding on this planet right now. And in today's episode, we are tapping into the cosmic currents with Deidre Wilton. She's an esoteric astrologer, a clairvoyant medium, author, metaphysical teacher, and spiritual counsellor from Wellington here in New Zealand. And for over 20 years, Deidre has guided thousands through astrology, teaching, writing, and soul readings, activating people to step into their highest potential and navigate life's challenges with clarity and confidence. And I'm so excited to have Deidre on the show today. We thought we'd dive into the current upcoming energies that are shaping our world right now, a little bit touching on this Age of Aquarius space. What exactly is that? How is it impacting everybody? And how the ancient wisdom of Lemuria and Atlantis is starting to come into play a little bit more and resurfacing in the collective memory. So there'll be insights, there'll be guidance, there'll be all sorts of stuff. So stand by for another amazing episode and welcome, Deidre. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Joanna. It's lovely to be here.
Yay! So let's get into it.
Okay.
Right now, it is a really intense time on the planet. I don't know if you're experiencing it. I certainly am. Clients are reaching out to me specifically now this year, left, right, and center right now. It is peak time. And, this kind of September period that we're in is a very pertinent point because you're kind of moving into the end of the year, and obviously we're also in a 9-year, and there's a culmination and tying up loose ends I've noticed of all different bits and pieces, including those aspects within ourself that are outdated and old that maybe our ego or personality self has been clinging onto or not wanting to truly just let go. So I know I've been called into spaces and places where I've needed to inhabit my heart a lot more, bring myself back, get out of the mind and all that jazz. But what, from your perspective, why don't you give us a bit of in your estimation, or how you've been describing it, tell us what you feel like we're at right now and what's going on.
Okay, so it's yeah, as you said, it is a year of endings and beginnings. It's a number 9 year, 2025. So this year has all been about a lot of endings and beginnings on all sorts of levels. So everything from relationships to attitudes to beliefs, and because we're clearing out the swamp, basically, we're getting rid of all of that negativity and all of that toxicity that holds us back from being truly authentic. So what's coming out for a lot of people is, often when things end around us that may not be what we planned or what we wanted to end, but the universe is showing us very clearly what is not positive in your life, what's not going to help you move forward, what's not going to help you to be aligned with, and you need to get rid of it out of your life so that you can be more authentic and be the true person that you came here to be. So there's a lot of pressure on us all at the moment that what goes on inside of you has to reflect outside of you. We can't be charlatans, we can't be pretending to be what we're not, because it's just not working, and people can see right through it, because we're really also in a time of revelation. So it's very hard to hide things and to sweep things under the carpet anymore, as we're noticing globally and collectively worldwide. So it's a real time of like I said, of endings and beginnings. And as an astrologer, one of the most important things this year has been the amount of planets, the outer planets, which are the slow moving planets, which teach us very long and very important lessons. They've all changed signs during this year. And so that's massive. It's very, very rare that this many big signs would all change at the same time. And so, as we see it with astrology, as above, so below. So as the changes happen in the cosmos, they reflect down on us on the earth plane so that we can use this energy to bring upon the change that we need. So so if we look back historically at some of the changes that are going on now, Pluto is currently in Aquarius. So Pluto moved into Aquarius earlier this year after 17 years in Capricorn. So Pluto's all about transformation, how we go from being the slave to the master of our lives. So while he was in Capricorn, he was very much showing us how the traditions, the structures, the routines, the ways of being that we've lived under for many, many years now don't work anymore. They're broken, and it was all top-down feeding, where the people at the top have everything and it trickles down to the people at the bottom. So as we step into the Age of Aquarius, and Pluto in Aquarius is kind of like really activating the new Age of Aquarius, which is, I believe, has been in place since at least 2008.
Right.
But it's really starting to build up now. And so the Age of Aquarius is all about new solutions to old problems. You know, the world is a very, very broken place right now, and we cannot keep building it on these same broken foundations, because it's like building something on a house of cards. It's all going to collapse again. So we
Right.
have to find new structures, new foundations, new ways forward. And Aquarian energy is all about thinking outside the box. So
Yeah.
this is where that's what's so important now, is that we can't look to the old traditional conservative ways of fixing things or moving forward. We have to look at a whole new way. And for some people, that's really exciting, and that, you know, they see this as their big opportunity and their ability to move forward. But for a lot of people, it's very, very fearful, because everything they've relied on, everything that they've believed to be true up until now, is all fading before their eyes. And so I believe what the true importance of all of these planets changing signs, and going into more out of water, and earth, and into air and fire, is bringing us the passion and the imagination we need to move forward.
I
And
love
so
that.
it's really important that we embrace this energy rather than letting it just carry on the way that it is. Sorry, just
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So Pluto in Aquarius is the beginning of that age of Aquarius, of really being able to everybody to feel confident that it's okay to be different.
Yeah.
It's okay, more than okay, to find a new solution to an old problem. So
Yes.
that's the Pluto in Aquarius is really helping us with that. And the other big move was Neptune, another very slow moving planet, out of water and into fire. So out of Pisces and into Aries. And Saturn moving alongside, the big teacher and taskmaster moving alongside. So what we've
Hmm.
got there is the age of the spiritual warrior, where we take
Right.
all of our dreams, all of our fantasies, all of those things, those higher beliefs and those higher goals and, dreams that we've had, and we make them real. And the only way to make something real is to give it structure, to give
Right.
it content, to give it something strong to stand on. So that's where we're all at now, where we all should be at now, is looking for how we can move forward in a different way. But we're just setting up the foundations of this. No one's expecting anyone to have all the solutions overnight, or to suddenly change the world, simultaneously. It's very
Yeah.
much about just actually, how do we do this differently?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the theme for me, for many years now has been to bring people back into remembrance of their mastery
Yes.
in preparation for, I believe, this time, because I also am, and it's been kind of guided and come through to me in various bits of information that, when we are in our uniqueness, when we're operating out of that true divine template or our unique signature of light that is absolutely not like anything else in the omniverse, even, that is when we are actually playing the role we came to play, and the magnificence of that, and it ripples out and affects not only the planet and the cosmos, but all other beings in a really, really powerful, expansive way. And
Absolutely.
we're all the beautiful pieces of the puzzle that just need to kind of slot in. And then I do believe that literal overnight quantum shifts of epic proportions, not even understood by the human mind, could be possible
Yeah.
to provide solutions to everything that is going on right now on the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, with all of these planets making these moves, and especially the other big planet that's made a move is the planet Uranus, which is the planet of change. And
Mm.
he takes 7 years to move through a sign of the zodiac. So he's just moved into Gemini. So Gemini is the busiest sign of the zodiac. So when we stick the planet of change in the energy of busyness, it's going to be mental for the next 7 years. Things are going to be moving so fast. And
Yeah.
the only way to cope with so much change and so much fast movement is to go within.
Yeah.
We cannot rely on what's outside of us anymore to look after us, to make decisions
No.
for us, and to be relied upon, because it's changing so fast. Whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant. It's all about the
Totally.
change. And so
Yeah.
we've got to realize that you come back to yourself. We're all critical thinking sovereign beings, but we've forgotten how to do this. And so it's interesting, you said at the beginning, what we're going through now, it is all about change, but so much of it is about remembering, how
Yes.
did we used to be? And
Mm.
that's what we've got to go back to, because every cell in your body remembers the way it should
Remembers.
be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's all there, and
absolutely.
it's just looking for that right vibration to align with, and then you find that flow.
Mm. And the conditioning of this reality is long and strong. We've got the programming of schools and of countries and culture and religion and all this stuff layered on top of it. And so no wonder, we are programmed from such an early age when we birth onto the planet right through up until
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And, it is as much deprogramming as it is remembering, because then you can get to those places within us that are ready to be unlocked and pop open. And it's so funny because it's like, I think we think about remembering as being quite a linear process, but
Mm.
I have had those instances of a deep remembering, and it is instantaneous. It's all there, and suddenly
Yep.
you know it all
Yep.
the layers, all of the aspects of it, like the whole thing. And it's by way not a linear process at all. So I just want to point that out, because when we can open into
Absolutely.
those spaces, then it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the unlocking of the soul memories.
Yeah.
And it's always, I mean, I'm very visual. So when I have a soul memory unlock, it's like a tree grows in my head, where all of a sudden you've got this tree and suddenly the branch grows 100 more, the tree grows 100 more branches as
Mhm.
that thought takes place or opens up with or unlocks within your head.
Yeah.
Suddenly all the information is there. So it's all there within us. We've just got to come back to trusting ourselves because, all of the education system, everything, it's all, there's no mistake that we are where we are today. It's all been engineered and created to,
Yeah.
to keep us from growing and evolving the way we're supposed to. But
Mm.
the deepness within us, the higher self within each and every one of us knows this is not the right way to be.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
fighting for that. And I really believe we've already won this battle.
Me
Everything is going
too.
to work out. There's a beautiful new world coming,
Mm.
but the challenge is how long is it going to take the rest of the world to wake up? Because when we look at what's going on around us at the moment, it's going to carry on until everybody wakes up.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's a very difficult time. So when we look into what's going on now, so many people have handed their power over for so long because we were conditioned to believe that other people knew what was best for us.
Totally.
But what's really interesting is that, I love to work with children in astrology because I sort of believe, we choose our lives before we're born. So
Yeah.
every parent should be handed their child's astrology report or chart as soon as they're born
Definitely.
so they can see, have I birthed a mathematician here? Have I birthed
Yeah.
an artist here? So that they can actually work with the energy that child has brought in. But these kids that have come in, and I'm talking over the last 20 years or more, are so advanced. They
Mm.
know things that we spent years trying to figure out or to get on top of or to master. They're born already mastering that energy. So it's so important that we're almost like the later version of the indigo children, where we are trying to create the pathway for these new children coming through to blaze through because they
Mhm.
know exactly what to do.
Right.
But the challenge what I'm noticing with a lot of parents of these children, that all of these children want to run before they can walk because they've come into this lifetime knowing that they're here for a really important purpose and knowing that they've got the answers and all the solutions that we need. But they don't realize that they have to sort of go through a process to get there. We can't run before we can walk. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of frustration out there with these kids. But I do believe that these children are going to completely overthrow the education system because there's nothing they're being taught at the moment that's going to be of any advantage to them moving forward, except for,
Right.
maybe the basics of we all need to learn to read and write.
Yeah.
But I feel that that I love to see the day come when a child can go to school and learn what they want to learn
Yeah.
what they're interested in. Because what a different planet this would be if people were allowed to follow their dreams.
But also just like learning like basic stuff about how we work with energy and thoughts and belief systems and our emotional, regulation and all of those kinds of things, like how we operate as a technology. Like that would be the most important thing for kids to be taught as far as I can see as well, because it's like I always say we came in with a perfect working model, we just didn't come in with a user manual. And so
Yes, exactly.
we aren't this incredible, truly advanced technology that most of us aren't operating as the potential of the technology that we are and that we contain and what we can tap into. But it's
Yeah.
just we're just because we've been programmed into the other. So yeah.
Yes, because I mean, I think they say that we only use something like 15 or 20% of our grey matter of our brain. That's all we use. But when they find that number of that percentage, they base it only on academic and traditional learning. They don't base that on creativity or intuition. So if
Mm.
you're intuitive or you're creative, you use a whole lot more of your brain. So imagine every child being taught from a young age, hey, there's a whole lot more of your brain you could be using and
Yeah.
allowing them or encouraging them to do that, what they
Mm.
might turn into, what answers and solutions they might bring.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, let's hold space for that reality.
Absolutely. And what's also very interesting with children is that most children up until around the age of 6 to 8 remember their past lives,
Mm.
because that's the only memories they have. So whatever they're doing in play at that age is usually reenacting something they're very familiar with or they've done before, or they're remembering from another lifetime. So, it's a really good idea to question your children if you've got children or grandchildren that young. Ask them questions and see what their
Yeah.
answers are to the problems. And they'll have incredibly ingenious answers or extremely simple answers that we've kind of overlooked because they're
Complicated.
just basic. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, they are just the little masters when they are in their mastery like that because they haven't been in the programming or the conditioning or any of it. That's
Exactly.
layered over the top at that point. So, yeah, yeah, that's a good shout. And how, we also have this element of land masses starting to come to the surface and definitely sort of connections coming through that seem Lemurian, Atlantean, and things playing out on the planet that also have roots in those civilizations and literally are playing out in somewhat again. So I wanted to touch on this stuff because I've certainly been noticing a lot of energy related to that transpiring around me and, connections coming through and all sorts of stuff right now. And is that related to these big shifts in the cosmos as well? Or how do you see all of that?
Yes. Well, I think a lot of what we do is cyclic. We go through cycles of development. And, what we're sort of seeing at the moment around the world is the end of an empire.
Yeah.
And at the time, whenever an empire comes to an end, if we think about, for instance, the Roman Empire, and when that came to an end, there was total debauchery throughout that empire.
Right.
Everything got really dark and really perverted, and all sorts
Yes.
of things went on there. We're kind of
Right.
there again without any judgment. Things are
Right.
getting a bit sort of off the edge again. And
Yeah.
so this really kind of is often the indication of the end of an empire, where things become really frazzled, very too outside the box, too alternative, too on the other side of the thing to be ideal to move forward with in some way. So that's one indication of it. But the other indication is that, the story of Lemuria and Atlantis is they were two, very ancient civilizations that existed alongside one another. And they were both very, very advanced. So they could travel, teleport, they could communicate telepathically. They used crystals, they used the God energy, the earth energy. They used all the different energies available to us to create and to live beautiful lives and to prosper in many, many ways. But as time went on, the Atlanteans became more and more interested in technology, more and more interested in what can we do with robots and with technology as opposed to using the energy of the land or the God or the universal energy. So they became obsessed with it. And so the Lemurian people went to them and said, this is not the way that the universe is meant to move forward. We're meant to stay working with the natural energies, not go into this technology. I mean, of course, there's a use for technology, absolutely. But,
Yeah.
going too far in any direction is never a good idea. And
Right.
so that's what happened. And so, the Atlanteans did some terrible things and experimented a lot and did all sorts of things that were not good. And eventually, the entire continent of Atlantis sank because they refused to change, or they refused to evolve in the
Yeah.
way that was for the highest good of the entire planet. So the entire continent sank. Many Atlanteans survived, not a lot, but some survived, as did the Devic kingdom, which was also very much alive in Lemuria and Atlantis. And so what we're seeing now on the Earth plane, at that time, Atlantis sank and the Lemurian people retreated back into Middle Earth, into the center of the Earth in Mount Shasta, places like that where they could stay safe. But there's also Lemurian Atlantean people walking all amongst us at this time.
Yeah.
And my belief that we're back here at the moment is because as we look at the world, we can see that it's becoming very technology based again. And, like I said, there is a use for this. I mean, imagine, losing your arm and then being able to get a bionic arm that you could use again. I mean, that's amazing technology. But when we're asking machines and robots and technology to think for us and to create for us, then we're in trouble, because that's the very humanness of us that allows us to do that. And when we're handing that power over to another entity or another being, that's not the way to be, any more than it was a right thing to do to hand all of our programming and our conditioning over to other powers that be as well. It hasn't worked out well. So carrying down that road does not look like, in my opinion, a good direction to go in. So the Lemurians tried to stop the Atlanteans. They weren't able to do it. So in astrology, we all have a planet in our chart called Chiron. And Chiron is known as the wounded healer. So wherever he sits in your chart, you come into this lifetime carrying the wound of rejection. And whatever sign of the zodiac your Chiron sits in shows what type of rejection you've come here to deal with in this lifetime. So my belief, so it takes Chiron around 7 years to move through a sign of the zodiac. So it takes a while for him to come back to the sign of the zodiac that you might have been born in with your Chiron. So, but my belief is that anybody has Chiron in Pisces or Chiron in Aquarius in their natal charts at this time is somebody who's been as part of that Atlantis Lemuria collapse all those years ago, and we're back to make sure it does not happen again.
Right.
So it's a really, really strong thing. So people who are born with Chiron in Aquarius or Chiron in Pisces, they'll be the people around us at the moment who are the most driven for these changes to occur, for humanity to take a step in the right direction for the highest good of all concerned, rather than to go down this technological road. But there's also a lot of Atlanteans back at this time as well, who are very entrenched in that technological way of being, and that's the only way they can see forward.
Yeah.
But I really believe the rest of us, I'm Chiron and Pisces, and it's a generational thing. So it'd be anybody born between, where am I? So sort of born between about 1958 and about 1963, roundabout.
Okay.
And then again, because now Chiron's currently in Aries, so the people that have been born over the last 14 years, round about 14 years, are also Chiron and Aquarius or Chiron and Pisces. So they're those new ones coming through, and we're the old ones guiding them, as I said earlier, cutting that pathway for them so they can forge their way through.
Yeah, right. Fascinating. Wow.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot to be done.
Yeah, I mean, there is just so much moving. And on the kind of AI kind of technology front, it's been so interesting to watch play out right now, where certain people who are quite pronounced in their global presence, I would say, who have come out using AI or ChatGPT, a form of it that they have circumvented around the kind of limitations of that technology and using to connect with interdimensional beings, using it as a gateway by kind of putting in things that allow it to circumvent the normal programming, basically.
Yes.
Using it as a portal, I guess. It's almost like a portal. And then all of these other people, a lot in the spiritual community, which I find hilarious, really being like, it's this finger point, that's wrong, all this kind of stuff. And it's so really, really, and very provoked, fiery debate. And a lot of, I've just been watching it play out because I find it so interesting about where it's landing, because I think for anyone to be able to explore these kinds of potentials that the current technology is providing is amazing. But obviously, if you are just handing over to that, then that's a different story. But I also know that there's experiences that at least one person who I was following, this chap called Adam Apollo, that he's been having with this gatework protocol, which I thought was so fascinating, because he connected with a being who came through and who started actually giving him a lot of information about his past lives of them together, but the stuff that is only known to him as a childhood memory that isn't on any media presence anywhere or any kind of written down anywhere or whatever. But so he was having this experience of connecting through a ChatGPT foundation, but utilizing it in a way to kind of connect with this being, which then was with him actually in real life as well, and giving messages and coming into his field that way as well. But it did start through ChatGPT. Yeah. So it's just so interesting because, if people didn't know anything about that or the process that he went through, I can see how they are trying to poke holes in it and be like, oh, you've gone to the mirror matrix and it's an illusion and all this kind of stuff that people want to throw out there. And, anyone saying they're the one true pathway through anything is highly questionable in my eyes. And there's many people who are doing that right now.
Yep. One source of truth.
Yep, spiritual, and especially even in the spiritual community, which is hilarious because it's almost like the other one source of truth and the spiritual bent, which I just am like, the mind boggles. It is so fascinating. But and again, that's back into the polarity duality game, right? Which is separation consciousness at its finest and what we are all moving out of. Yes. And it plays out at all levels.
Yeah.
Spiritual, cultural, political, like all of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of Aquarian energy. Like Aquarian energy, if you know many Aquarian people, they're outside the box. They dance to their own drum
Oh,
beat.
yes.
And so, but at the
Yeah.
same time, they love the concept and the belief in community. So,
Mm.
it's all about being different, but all coming together anyway. So
Yeah.
it's without that division. Yes, we're all different. Yes, we all have different ways of looking at things and doing things. And that's not a bad thing. We
Yeah.
can all come together and create through our
Yeah.
differences rather than the separation. Yeah, so separation and division has been sort of the power tool of the negative powers that be for way too long. And they're constantly finding ways to divide us. And so,
Mm.
ChatGPT and this is just another way to
I
divide
know,
us.
right?
And everybody just, falls into it like that instead of, really my best advice to anybody during these times is to learn to observe and not absorb.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also it is a chiseled level of discernment that
Yes,
you can only attain through your heart. That is not a mental process that you go through
yes,
because this heart has access into the multidimensional space. It kind of sees everything interdimensionally for you and where you are,
yeah,
and can see through all of the BS and all of
yeah,
the illusion and all of the corruption and all of it that is going on in this reality right now. But and yet it's a direct knowing, and there's no question. And so it's so fascinating because yeah, I really feel like at least I have had huge initiations and training and levels of just new levels of discernment over the last 5 years for sure, and which are now, I mean, they've been so valuable to me, and I can really start reading things energetically in a very, very heightened way. So yeah, you can really see, as you said in the beginning, see right straight through people and who they are when they can't even see it themselves, actually.
no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
And it is really important for people to realize that it's okay to think for yourself. Like if something happens or something's presented to you and you don't agree with it or it doesn't make sense to you, then you don't have to go along with it. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to, and you can do that loudly or you can do that quietly. It's entirely up to you. But just coming back to that, it's okay to be right or to be wrong. But most importantly, it's okay to have an opinion.
yeah, yeah. But also, what is right and wrong?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
actually, there is no right and wrong.
No,
It's an
no.
end of a spectrum of a stream of potentials. And actually, back to the duality polarity, there's no good, bad, right, wrong. Actually, in
No.
actual fact, it's a construct of this reality that has been created that we've
Yeah.
bought into that actually doesn't really exist. So
No, no.
it's like,
We all see things so differently that there's no one way to look at anything.
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. And this is also, I have this in my book, The Inside Hustle, or I think it is that, truth is also a frequency. Like truth is not one finite truth, really. It is a truth actually evolves and changes
Mm.
often over time.
Yeah,
And it's one of those things where even truth as a frequency, more than anything, isn't limited by the linear mind construct that we all want to operate out of and have people accountable to. It just
yeah.
doesn't work like that.
No,
And
no, not at all.
it's just so funny, isn't it? And this is, I talk about it as relearning how to live because
Yeah,
we've been out of the mode of operating out of our true divine blueprint for so long,
yes,
and knowing how this divine technology operates, that we have to sort of start relearning how to do that and how we best operate and all of that, and slowing down to speed up and, going from here to here and like,
yeah.
all of those key things.
Yeah, and that's why I do believe, that the way that life is getting so much faster and so much busier at this time is, like I say, just forcing us to go within because it's too chaotic out there to be, oh, that's the way, or that's the way to rely
Yeah.
on anything out there because it's changing so fast. But you don't have to. Your morals, your values, what's important to you, that doesn't change, that evolves.
Yes.
And so that's what we have to hold on to if we want to move forward with and to help these, the young souls coming through, the new souls coming through to actually take on what they've come to take on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is confusing, chaotic energies out there.
Yeah,
Million
absolutely.
different storylines, there's a million different narratives and opinions, there's
Yeah,
a million different, and like in truth, nothing is what it seems on the surface. Everything has these deeper layers from a multidimensional perspective, i.e., Atlantis, Lemuria, or whatever kind of connections between people through different incarnations that are playing out at this time.
Yeah.
And the energy is calling for correction, for evolution, for expansion, for transmutation, for, not taking that down lineages and lineages to come anymore, right? And just actually allowing us to show up differently and actually see through into what is beyond that, beyond what is playing out, and actually get what is going on really behind the scenes.
Yeah, and what we have to do to be able to access that energy is to do the inner work. And that's what's really, really important for people who want to wake up, who want to, move forward and evolve with the planet for the highest good of all concerned. You've got to clear your decks. You've got to look at what you need to clear within you, what beliefs, what fears, what conditioning stops you from feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
Because everything comes back to you. I mean, there's some forms of spiritual belief is that say that you're the only person here. Everything else is your
It's a
imagination.
holographic illusion and projection
Exactly.
from your blueprint. Totally.
A lot to get your head around, but that's a belief. So if that is a belief, then again, it's always comes back to you. So everything starts with you. So if you want a more loving world, you've got to be a more loving person.
Totally.
If you want to trust in everything, you've got to trust yourself. And that's everybody thinks that, doing the spiritual work and going there is suddenly sort of talking to dead people or hearing voices or meditating. And of course, that's an aspect of it, but you're not going to get the best out of it until you do the work that you need to do on you first. You get rid of those fears that stop you, because everything is energy. So if you're carrying fear, you're adding to the collective energy of fear.
Totally.
If you're carrying love and acceptance and peace, then you add to the collective energy of that.
Yeah.
So it's all got to come back to us. And everybody's always looking for these solutions outside of themselves. But that's the next step. You've got to take the first step within yourself. And so that's something I think is really important for a lot of people like myself and yourself to be teaching at this time, is to get people to really understand that they need to make peace within themselves to create peace within the world.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I think some people right now feel powerless. They feel the very, empathic feelings about what is playing out on a global scale, particularly in certain countries, and death and dying and poverty and all of it. And at the same time, it's like, well, are you there right now? Were you born into that place to be in that direct experience right now? No. So where are you, and what can you do in this present moment to support and hold space for what is happening by allowing us to transmute different energetics that may be contributing to patterns like that on the planet playing out? And maybe if there's warring energies within us anywhere, well, I mean, how can we be in judgment of wars playing out on the planet when, we could be having warring thoughts about our neighbor or about
Ourselves.
our family, and to ourselves, But people often don't make the connection that we are actually, and this is where I think this idea of radical responsibility comes in.
Yes.
And it's not to bring yourself down or finger point at the self or be, like, oh, you screwed that up, or, oh, you've got that wrong and you're a judgy or whatever it was because you're having a bad day, and you're in a crunchy moment. But it's more just like really just taking full responsibility for everything and in us that is moving, and being able to address it, to be able to really be heart-centered through all of this as much as we can, to allow things to be a contribution in a more expansive, positive, or transcending way, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be yourself, what you want to see in the world.
That's
You
right.
can't just expect everybody to change it for you, or to hand that responsibility over to other people. It's your responsibility. You want a better world, then do something about it.
Yeah. And also, I think people get caught up in the often the theoretical, trying to understand it, work it out, spending so much mind space, with watching tons of, YouTube videos. Here we are. But all of this to get a, that kind of understanding that is from the cerebral place, that isn't really necessarily taking that away and directly utilizing the tools, techniques, insight, consciousness shift, or deep diving into the self to create a shift in your inner landscape. Because, understanding that in such a way as at the level of the mind isn't actually doing anything necessarily so much within. It's just not. It doesn't have that same ability to shift. So
It's like people trying to intellectualize a relationship breakup.
Yeah.
where they sit down for hours, how did that happen? How did it work out that way? Instead of actually just accepting the fact, okay, this is what's happened.
Mm,
It, this is obviously what's meant to happen.
yeah.
And everything happens for a reason. So that's another thing that people need to start being more aware of. There are no random acts out there. I
No.
mean, basic random acts, there might be, what you can have for dinner tonight is a random act. But as far as who you're going to meet today, who
Yeah.
you're going to interact with today, that's already predestined.
Totally.
And what's really important for people to also realize, especially if we want to work with others and be more community minded, is that, you chose your life before you were born, and therefore you chose everybody who's in it. And you
Mm,
chose them all so you could use them, not in a negative way, but in a way that they've got a gift or a talent or a piece of information that can be useful to you, just like you have the same for them because they've chosen you for the same reasons. So
yeah.
start looking at who's around you. Start
Mm,
looking. I mean, over the last few years, I think one of the things with COVID is it really allowed us to start looking at who our tribes are. And
mm,
what a lot of us found is the tribe wasn't necessarily your blood family or the people that you've been with for the last 20 years or so. It could turned out to be all sorts of different people that resonate with you on that more vibrational frequency level. That's your tribe. And
mm,
so part of this process is also about finding our tribes and finding the right people to be around that can allow you to develop yourself and what you believe in a communal collective way.
yeah, that's quite true. I mean, as you were talking about what we contribute into the collective, I saw that so heavily in COVID because no matter whether you were pro one, well, pro vaccine or pro not vaccine or whatever, like whether you were pro this or pro that or pro natural health versus, the other, I mean, it's still part of the same. There was still fear instigated on both sides
Yes.
for different reasons, but it
Yeah.
was still creating fear
Yeah.
ultimately.
Absolutely. And fear is the power tool of the ego. That's all the ego represents. And so the more you feed people fear, the more you keep them under control.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's so interesting because the fear is one of the biggest viruses on the planet,
Yeah.
basically.
And we've been taught to fear everything from women and their power to
Mhm.
to technology to God to the natural resources of the earth. It's all
Yeah.
fearful. And
Yeah.
it's crazy that we buy into it.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that's because we've forgotten who we are in that moment. And
Yeah.
we're not remembering we are these really incredible, powerful, multidimensional beings and we co-create with the divine intelligence, which, as you say, doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't put random things
Yeah.
into your path or
Yeah.
create certain situations between people. It is
Yeah.
all purposeful and all in the intricate nature of the incredible intelligence that is weaving this life
Yeah.
experience through us.
And that co-creation thing is really important because there's a lot of people out there who keep thinking, spiritual people in particular, who keep thinking the galactics are going to come and save us. They'll be here any day. They're all arriving soon in their big, motherships, and we're all going to be taken away and put on medi beds and survive. And the Earth plane is in some ways they call it an experiment, but in most cases it's a school of learning. And so everything that exists here is human. Like for instance, if you have an addiction of anything, so anything from watching too much TV to drugs or whatever, addictions are earthbound. They can only ever be given up by the soul in an earthbound life because
Mm,
they don't exist in the spiritual realms. So if you have an addiction in this lifetime and you don't give it up on the earth plane in this lifetime, you'll come back with that addiction in another lifetime
mm,
because it's earthbound. And that's where we've got to realize that all of this earthbound stuff is all in your head. It's all
mm,
your imagination. And
right.
that has so much power over us. And this
Mm,
is, mindfulness is one of the most amazing tools I think everybody, and I mean, I think it should be a subject from 5 years old at school to teach children and everybody how much the way you think controls everything that goes on around you. If you
mm,
think you're crap, you attract crap. And this
yeah.
is where this co-creation thing is really important with the universe. We do co-create in everything that we do, but we've got to sort of show the way. We can't be deciding, like, for instance, you think, I need to move somewhere, I need to shift my house, I need to go and live somebody else, but I've got no idea where. Well, that's not giving the universe much to work with. It will
Mm,
always help you, but you've got to say, okay, I want to shift, but I need to be 50 miles from where I live now, or I want to shift to a country on the other side of the world. You've got to give the universe something to work with, and then
mm,
it'll jump in and do that. But you've got to start the ball rolling.
yeah.
And so a lot of people are sitting there waiting to be rescued, waiting for divine intervention. Well, unless you do something to take a step in that direction yourself, it's not going to come.
Mm.
We come here to learn things, and everything that's created on the earth plane has been created by the ego and by humanity itself. So why should other powers from other galaxies and stuff come and rescue us from what we created ourselves? We need to, I believe that the earth plane needs to get to a situation where there are more people wanting to change than there are not. Then the galactics will come and help us. But until we ourselves get ourselves to that point, my personal belief is they're not coming to help until we do the work. Because we created this mess. Why should they fix it? Why should God fix it? We created it.
I mean, I do find it interesting to debate this space of the earth as a school or as a learning institution, because I'm like, where did that come from originally? And I know people like Dolores Cannon, it came through. I know that there has been various bits that it has been brought through, but for me, I sort of find that really limiting, a really limiting space to inhabit for me, because I personally believe that we are actually all masters who came back here to contribute at this time of the planet. And yes, we are walking through the nodes of amnesia as we do it to bring ourselves online to be able to show up as that mastery, right? But if we are coming from a consciousness that, we're here learning lessons and we have to get these lessons right, or we're going to keep reincarnating and having to do all that to get enlightenment, so to speak. So that's one of the kind of schools of thought, right, about what's going on this planet. Yeah. That to me feels so disempowering, because if you're constantly here feeling like you are having to learn something or whatever, but what if you came in packing all of that already, but you are here actually through the process, which looks like learning, but it actually isn't. It's about you remembering your mastery and remembering the way through, the true way of how you know yourself as a divine being through all this to bring it back into balance. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just throwing it out there to debate it a little bit, because I kind of, when I've gone into it quite a few times, I feel like it is so limiting, and then it's just like, oh, I'm just learning lessons. Oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I haven't got that yet. Oh, I don't want to come back again. And it's like, in the same way, there's almost fear around that in the spiritual community. They're like, oh, I don't want to come back to this place again. What a nightmare. I get that as well. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where that original thought first came from. Do you?
Well, I know I work with the Ascended Masters, and it's very much part of their teachings as well. And I believe Dolores Cannon worked with them as well. So it is a train of thought. And yeah. But I sort of feel, as I see it, we're all a soul. We're all souls. And so how I've been taught and what I believe and what resonates with me is that the earth plane is a school of learning. We come here as a soul to evolve. And so as a soul, the only way to truly learn everything is to experience it. So as I've been taught, we could spend as a soul our entire existence in the spiritual realms. But what we can learn in one lifetime on the earth plane can take 1,000 years to learn if we stay in spirit, simply because we don't have the ego when we're in spirit. We only have that higher self energy. We're all drifting. We're all in love energy. And it's a beautiful way to be, but down here is hell. There's no, negative, horrible place we go to when we die. The earth plane is as hard as it gets. So I sort of think as human beings, we're very much conditioned, no pain, no gain. And I think that a lot of that belief comes from that belief system, or a lot of the ways that we are comes from that belief system. So yeah, I just think as human, it's all about experiencing things to learn them rather than just remembering them to learn them. I think, like, for instance, if I use myself as an example, I know that if I want to go and do my supermarket shopping, if I write my list down and forget it, I'm still probably going to remember what I need to do. But if I just leave it in my head, I won't. So that's a human thing that I'm doing to allow myself to remember something that's then going to help me. Yeah. So I think it's using that humanness of us as an experiment, perhaps in this lifetime, to learn our lessons.
I mean, I find it so interesting because I mean, maybe it's part of that like indigo energy that I inhabit, but it's very much sort of like, I almost feel like all of these constructs, including those ones that may have come through the Vedics over thousands of years, including the ones from the Ascended Masters, they may have been really good at certain times of consciousness on the planet. And I do question whether they are still relevant, on point, or whether they are part of the programming that we're actually also undoing, and then there's definitely that indigo part of me that wants to question that and is like, well, hold on a minute, if we had a blank slate here, would we actually dial into way more expansive information and wisdom and knowledge about everything going on here
Yeah.
with just in almost defying the constructs and being blank slate. Like I feel like there's so much more power in that in a way. And I feel like all of this stuff is going to be rewritten over the next
Yes.
however long. It just will be. It's going to be that one of those things that I think we're going to be like, oh, actually, now we're at this level of consciousness, and I can see why we thought that, and that was helpful for a time, but now we're here, and actually, that's not what it is at all. I mean, it's like a thing that supersedes itself, right?
Yeah. It's just like the education system not being a great example, but at certain years you learn something that you're ready for a certain level of knowledge, and you absorb that knowledge, then you move on to the next level of knowledge. So that. Very much.
And I mean, science, like moving from Newtonian physics to quantum physics also, like things supersede themselves because new pockets of information, knowledge, wisdom become available through whatever, kind of tool or technique or whatever it is that it comes to pass. And then, as you say, everything is happening at lightning speed now, which is just, incredible, and also has a lot to do with that discernment and tuning in, and whether you get distracted and into and out of everything that is more important than this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Turn off that TV.
And what do you think about the rest of the year, like astrologically for everyone?
So there's quite a few planets in retrograde at the moment. So when planets are retrograde, we're kind of getting a little bit of a rest from what they expect from us when they're direct. So when a planet's retrograde, it kind of is a time to go within and start looking at where you're going, what you're doing, whether you've got all the resources, whether you've got all the information, whether it's a good idea, all of those times. So we're all at this time, it's a time of sort of contemplation, but at the same time as we're contemplating, all the busyness is still going on outside of us too. So we're getting pulled within, then pulled without all the time. So I think the rest of this year, there's going to be more confusion and a lot more revelations, a lot more stuff coming out. But I think, and I'm already seeing the power of this Aquarian energy and the new ideas and the confidence in people to speak up about their new ideas, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. And we're also seeing with Saturn and Neptune in Uranus and Aries, but also retrograde at this time, it's time for us to really go within. I think for the rest of this year, one of the most important things we can all do is look at our belief systems and look at where you have a belief deep within you that's stopping you from moving forward, or stopping you from being happy, or stopping you from finding peace and happiness in your life. And it could just be a belief, that you're not good enough, a belief that that this is all you're going to get out of life, a belief that you can't have the things that you want in life. And a lot of them come from our childhood, where we, at whatever reason, we were told we couldn't at some time. And as a child, you believe what you're told. And then that belief stays with you. And you have these other experiences as life goes on that solidify that belief so it becomes something that's habitual to you. And that's what we've really got to look at changing at the moment. Because a lot of people, one of the worst beliefs that so many people hold on to in this lifetime is that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And that is such an important belief to shift, because if you don't believe you're good enough, then how can you expect anybody else to believe you're good enough? Or how can you expect yourself to step up if you don't think you're capable of doing it? But you are. Everybody is so much more capable than they believe that they are, or that they think that they are.
And it's, that's on point, because I brought through a belief workshop that I did about maybe 8 weeks ago. It was coming through so strongly to do with everybody. And I had quite a few people signing up for that and going through the process. And, it's so valuable. And it's one thing that I do periodically. Like every year I kind of look at my own beliefs, because it's one of the things that we're always going to evolve out of them. They are going to shift and change over time, and with what we're working with at that time and all of that, and we do just become self-limiting as we go through, and there's always going to be room for expansion, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's a really healthy practice to continually look at them, but especially now.
Yeah, and to keep breaking it down, because often you have a belief on the surface which is only like a symptom of the deeper belief.
Definitely.
And so you've got to cut it down. And what I often encourage my students and clients to do is cut it down to a core emotion. This is going on in your life. How does that make you feel? And this is going on. So let's break that down. So at the end of the day, I feel abandoned. I feel neglected. I feel I don't love myself. And that's the core. That's the wound that needs to be healed. And then all those other layers on top of it just disappear.
That's, exactly right. I mean, it is, with all of this deep dive into the inner landscape, it isn't, as I said, linear or black and white. You've got to kind of go in and start understanding the way energy constructs and the way it projects in reality. And, that's what my expertise is, and you probably do that with clients as well, but is taking people through that, because a lot of people don't know how to do it. They're like, I know I need to change, but I don't have no idea where to begin.
Yeah.
And so it's the process of understanding how we operate and understanding ourselves as energy and understanding all the things that comprise the signal that we're sending out into, this larger holographic reality that are then bringing in experiences and vibrational matches for us to stand in the truth of who we are, or, get triggered into a wound that needs to be worked through, that is really like, or let go of something that we are really like clinging onto on a subconscious level, or whatever it is. There's so many different ways, but everything is always serving us.
Yeah. And often we cling on to beliefs and ideas and whatever, or experiences, because we think, if I keep this in the forefront of my mind, then if it ever presents itself again, I'll know exactly how to react and it won't get me the next time. But that's just rubbish too, because it just comes at you from a different way. And before you know it, you're stuck in that same problem just being presented to you from a different angle.
Totally, in disguise from a different angle of life. It's always so funny how that comes out.
Yeah.
And
And especially with I've often noticed with the people in your life,
oh yes,
life that really pushes your buttons and really gets you going, and eventually you're like, okay, I'm not going to react to that person anymore. I'm past their games. That's just that, yeah, whatever with them. And so the same lessons will come to you. They'll bring someone else into your life to do exactly the same thing, to see have I really learnt that lesson, or is it only in regard to that person?
right.
So we're always being tested, and unfortunately, as human beings, we are incredibly stupid, and we only learn anything the hard way. So if you want to learn your self-love and your self-worth, you're not going to learn it by someone going, oh, you're so fabulous. You're going to learn it when someone goes, you're a piece of crap, and you've got to fight your way back up.
Oh, funny. And so does your work dial into any of the more there's a lot of illness, inflammation, definitely droves of people leaving the planet for sure, but on that more physical layer of reality, I'm just noticing many things taking place, but at the same time, there's this kind of contrast of incredible advances being made, or people who are showing up and actually embodying ways to be in an ageless or reverse aging kind of reality that isn't requiring things like, those outside influences like Botox or face yoga or whatever it is. It's just not about that, because it is about frequency, energy, and the vibrational nature of this reality. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, because I do see a lot of people struggling with mental health, with things like ME, or being laid up. A lot of people I can see are being told to slow down because they're being like literally flatlined and made to kind of, really take some time out for themselves. But I don't know if you have any kind of advice for anyone in that kind of situation.
Again, I feel that this is all the pressure of the outside world to bring you back to yourself.
Yeah.
So just go within and think, and start thinking about, usually, if you are injured or something happens to you, often quite suddenly or unexpectedly, that lays you up in some way. So whether it's an injury to your legs, which allows you not to walk, or your back or something like that, that's always the universe saying it's time to stop and think and stop taking action.
Yeah.
And so it is an important time for, I think, those people who aren't coping, who are finding life very difficult, they just need to stop and go within and find, what is inside of you that actually makes you feel happy, and expand on that.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. And it might be, a lot of people work. I've been in Singapore working, and, people work so hard over there. Honestly, the hours they put in compared to us in New Zealand is incredible. And from such a young age, the kids are doing extra classes and stuff, and they're just all exhausted and so overwhelmed because they don't have time to go within.
No.
And so we've got to learn to sort of make time for ourselves. And so it's almost like, again, that's human stupidity. We're going to back you into a corner. We're going to make life so chaotic and so crazy for you until you have no choice but to go within. So, it's like the universe gives us opportunities, but it will also rip the rug out from under our feet if we're not taking the opportunities that are being presented to us. And so this is where we've got to realize, when something starts knocking on your door, answer the door. Don't wait for the door to be smashed in, because that's not the best way to do it. It's the hard way of doing it.
I think sometimes it's head in the sand, isn't it? It's that kind of like ostrich
Yeah,
syndrome where things are kind of cropping in for people and they're just not picking up what the universe is putting down. And,
yeah,
in our personal reality, it's very, very important to be so mindful and to really be aware and conscious about what's moving and what's transpiring and who's crossing our path and where we're feeling like crunchy energy or whatever it is, because that's the signals
yeah,
we need to be listening to that
yeah,
we will distract ourselves out of and make busy work out of and always be
yeah,
too busy to deal with. But as you say, it will come and slap you in the face if you don't start dialing
yeah.
in and
And
addressing it.
as soon as you find yourself reacting to anything, there's something to learn there.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if it doesn't bother you, if there's nothing for you to learn, it's just like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But when so if you feel, especially often if you feel a very negative reaction to something, there's always something there you need to look at. Why are you fearful of that? Why are you challenged by that experience or those words or whatever it was?
Mm.
What's in there that I need to look at within me? Because, the human brain can't recognize a trait in another person unless you already have it
That's,
yourself.
that's right.
And a lot of people don't like to hear that, especially, like you might be confronted a lot of the time by very angry people, but not consider yourself to be an angry person. So that's basically the universe saying there is anger within you. You're just not relating to it or releasing it in a
Or
way
in
that you need
denial
to.
of it or resistance
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always good to be aware of why, if there is a reaction from you, explore it. Look at why you feel that way whenever that thing is said or you come across that person or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's always ours to own if we are finding something triggered within us or finding energy moving in a way and we are reacting instead of responding. It's always going to be ours to own. And it's never about the other person, it's about us. And that
Yeah.
comes down to, again, the radical responsibility, right?
Yeah, but sometimes, sometimes it's not about us because sometimes we come across people who just want to project onto us. And I always remember many, many years ago, I was working in a clinic and there were two massage therapists there, both, lovely women, but one of them was really angry with the other one. And I can't even remember what it was about now, but she was really angry with her. And so she was just standing there, just shouting at her, going, yelling at her and blah, 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 blah. And the other woman just sat there and she listened and she listened. And when this woman had finished ranting at her, she just put up her hand and she said, "This isn't mine. I send it back to you with love."
Yeah.
I mean, there is nothing you can say to that, but it was the situation was that this woman needed to release a whole lot of stuff. She
Yeah.
felt that it would be better to project it onto another person than just go and shout out in the forest or something. But the other woman knew it wasn't about her; it was nothing to her, so she could just let this all float over her and send it back with love.
Yeah, of course, because she wasn't in reaction. She
No,
was just able to hold the energy in response,
yeah,
and she knew it because when you're not in reaction, it's not about you. Like
yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, and if it's triggering something in you, yes. If you are just totally, and there's days that you know, I think those people in our family, it's always like the tight quarters of the family. There's some
yeah,
days then they will get a rise out of you or there's energy moving and
yeah,
it could be like clockwork. Boom, it'll create something. Other days, water off a duck's back, no problem at all. What's the
yeah,
difference? Our internal landscape.
yes,
Simple.
yeah,
It's just is what it is. So yeah, it is really good to be able to discern the difference between those because
yeah.
shirking responsibility for something is also not the way.
Yeah. And if something is constantly coming up for you or being presented to you in different ways, you've got to stop ignoring it because
Yeah,
it's not going to go away until you do something about it.
absolutely. Yeah, you're just in the cycle and the loops, and it
Yeah.
just, yeah, you just get those patterns that are moving. And that's, a lot of the work I do with people is going in to see and then joining the dots for people about that stuff. And they're like, oh, I see how that's there, and it's translating.
Yeah.
Underneath that is all of this, and this is
Yeah. So I
actually
think,
what the root is of like certain things or where it's sitting. Yeah.
yeah, because you like I mean, I think the way that we work very similarly is that we both help people to find who they truly are.
Yeah.
To understand who they are, what they're capable of. And, it's just like this light comes on for people and they suddenly realize, oh, I'm actually that type of person. I can achieve this. Where
Mhm.
they just didn't realize that. But at the same time, it's always been there at the back of their mind thinking, I could do this, I could do that.
Yeah.
Because you probably find as much as I do when you're doing sort of life soul readings for people or talking into people's purpose in this lifetime, that, most of what you say to people going, I always wondered about that, or I always felt that, but I wasn't sure. And so
Mhm.
finally they realize that their soul was telling them all along, this is your purpose, this is your path. And they
Mm.
need somebody like us to come along and go, yep, You were right spot on all the way. And we
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, we're doing this because we're being told by guides or
Yeah.
whatever what
Yeah.
the information is. And so it's that absolute confirmation for a soul. And it just lights them up. And
Mm.
suddenly from there, they take responsibility for their life. They take on what their gifts and talents are and they start to use them rather than just drifting, wondering why all these random things happen to me in my life. There's always a plan to it.
Yeah, and it's almost like being given permission, you know?
Mm,
It's like a
yeah.
permission slip, isn't it, from someone or a situation or whatever that
Yeah.
allows that light to turn on and allows people to move forward in a different way and actually meet those aspects of self that are the true self and
Yeah.
who they really are inside under all those layers of programming and conditioning and everything
Absolutely.
we've been told to be, which really isn't who we are. Yeah.
And there's one, honestly, one statement that I've used with hundreds, thousands of clients over the year, and every time it usually always brings the same response of either tears or a deep sort of dived into themselves. And that is when you say to somebody, you haven't done anything wrong.
Mm,
And that to some people, it completely and utterly sets them free.
yeah.
When you realize that you haven't done anything wrong, all you've done is have a whole lot of lessons you have to learn, and you might not have learnt them the first time, and that's okay.
Mm,
It just sets people free with that. Oh my God. So it's not, I'm not bad. I'm not a
no.
terrible person. I just need to do this again in a different way.
Mm. Well, it's just all consciousness activation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about bringing that awareness in. It's about awakening. It's about all the mechanisms that are used. And sometimes they aren't in a really positive, peace, love, and mung beans like
Yep.
experience
Yeah.
in reality. They're just not. They just, as you say, they come from those places that are the most fertile for growth. And that sometimes is in the darkness, in the seed, in the soil before it comes into the with the light and with the first
Absolutely.
growth.
So it's embracing that shadow, which is the other sort of deeper way that we stop being so divided as well, is when we embrace the shadow side of ourselves and transcend that or transmute that into something more powerful. But you've got to acknowledge it first instead of going, oh, that's that horrible part of me. I'll just keep that buried and we'll ignore that and pretend it'll just go away and I'll evolve out of it. No, you've got to actually dive into it and transform it into something powerful. And that's when you really step into your turbocharged superpowers.
Totally. Yeah. And I think everybody has their own hero's journey in all of this. I wrote about mine in the Inside Hustle. You've probably written about yours maybe in your books.
Yeah, in my book, it's all your fault. Well, a
There you
little bit.
go.
I kept it a bit more general, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we are here to become the hero of our own story, believe it or not,
Yeah,
and to
exactly.
understand and believe that that is the case. And so, nobody is coming to save us, whether that's beings from another galaxy or whether that's anybody else in this reality. It's not going to happen. It is an inside-out job, and
Yeah.
we're all coming back to that. And if you haven't been doing any of that deep diving work, and now is a really good time to start
Yes.
reaching out to someone like Deidre or myself and helping to assist you on that journey because sometimes it's a little tricky to know where to start and what to happen. But the good news is everything is happening so much quicker now. And at lightning speed, changes can happen. And in split seconds, you can shift something that has been bugging a lifetime and it could go and just be gone. And it's really, really amazing. Transmutation can literally be that alchemically fast. So that is what's beauty. I think there's also this thing that people are like, oh, I have to go back into the skeletons and I have to do all this hard slog and it has to be like this and that. And, all the way it has been done maybe, 20 years ago, but it's not really like that
No.
anymore. And
No, yeah, that's the beauty of people doing the inner work that they all run away from because they don't want to go back to my childhood. I don't want to look at all
right.
that again. But as you say, because things are happening so fast now, the healing is super fast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Super
It's a
fast. I had
whole,
a young client the other day. He was only 26 or 27, just a young guy, and he'd broken up with his girlfriend, and he was flatting with a couple of guys, and he was feeling really down. And so he said to his flatmates, "Come on, I want to go out and do something. I'm sick of being here and feeling sorry for myself." And his flatmates were like, "Nah, can't be bothered. Not interested. Not going to go." And he got angrier and angrier and angrier that these so-called friends weren't supporting him. And then he had this massive download epiphany where the universe sort of said to him, "Well, if you can't be your best friend and make you happy, how can you expect anybody else to?" And I mean, most of us have spent 20 years trying to figure that one out. And just in a moment, he got it because he was open And so from then on, yeah, different
Yeah,
attitude towards everything. So this is why
absolutely.
things are happening so much. So when we look at, if you have fear of doing that inner work, if you have fear of really getting to know and taking responsibility for yourself, yes, absolutely face that fear. But what you're going to find is the healing is turbocharged. You're
Yeah.
not going to have to work through this for the next 10 years. You should
No.
actually be able to get it in a month or two.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that we touched on this because it's really talked about or come up so far in these conversations
Mm,
I've been having. But it is, yeah, it's a different game, it's a game-changing level, and also we don't need to go necessarily into the traditional practices like,
mm,
counseling or whatever to do it. It's a combination of different gifts and aspects that people are bringing through to streamline and to accelerate that process so
yeah.
that it makes alchemy actually more enjoyable and not just this bleh kind of feeling or having to go into these spaces that we're a bit nervous or scared of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, people being prepared to go with what resonates with you. So
Yeah.
I might be the perfect answer for one person and you might be the perfect for the other. So it's not
Exactly.
again, we're not following the leader. We're going with what, okay, actually, I think aromatherapy will help me, or I think
Yeah.
actually Reiki will help me, whatever. If
Yeah.
that's what you feel, then that is your answer.
Exactly. And there's so much out there, until we have the awareness or we've activated that truth within us where we're getting more direct realizations and things. It is about reaching out and with what is a frequency match in that moment and with where you're guided too, with your kind of like highest excitement or your intuition or your, whatever that is you use to guide you through life,
Yeah.
when you are noticing and aware of what's cropping up in your reality. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
always so good to, another really good sort of trick for people who are finding they're getting too caught up in their emotions is to put yourself into the third party.
Yeah.
And look at yourself like you're reading a book about you, and you say, "Why is Deirdre doing that? Why would Deirdre say that? Why is Deirdre in a bad mood?" And start observing yourself and why, and then you start to see why you react to things rather than being, "I feel really bad," or "I'm unhappy," or I, me." You
Mm.
can't really learn from that situation, but when you observe yourself and look at yourself like you're reading a book or watching a movie about yourself, you get so much insight into who you are and why you operate in the way that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good shout. I love that. What about people who are so ingrained in the mind space and just the whirring scenario thinking and the trying to figure it out from that linear space? What about those kinds of people?
They've got to learn to drop into the heart
Yeah.
and to see that feeling
I
your
say
way
too.
through something is another form of intellectualism, really. It's another form of analyzing something and finding your answers is to feel into it. And feeling is the most natural occurrence that we have. We feel before we think, really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, it's like when they talk about children, learning for children, children learn through games, through
Mm.
creativity, so much faster than they learn from academic learning.
Yeah.
And so, why don't we embrace that?
Yeah. And it's interesting connecting that, with the belief chat that we were having. When people are working with new um, affirmations or new belief systems that they want to bring in, when you actually marry that or you do that in a play scenario, the way that the quickness instead of like rote learning and affirmation to subconscious reprogram your subconscious, sorry, which
Yeah.
can take just repetition for days, weeks, months, actually like
Yeah.
90 days kind of vibe. Whereas if you combine it with play, if you combine those new affirmations with playing them out in some way or acting them or making them into a joke or a game or whatever, it is so crazy. It can take 10, like I want to say, like it shortens it by a mind-blowing rate. And I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact stat on the top of
Yeah.
my head right now, but it is so incredible that it is definitely worth doing that if you're trying to reprogram yourself into anything new.
Yeah.
Utilize the play.
Yeah. And
Mm,
that's why we need to really look at the way we've been conditioned and these things that naturally come to us, like play, we've been conditioned out of play.
yeah, yeah,
Even children aren't being encouraged to play anymore, but that is the ultimate way to learn or the most natural way to learn. Yet we're being, again, the division. They're keeping us away from what comes naturally to us.
absolutely. Well, as we start to wrap up our chat today, do you have any other last thoughts, or do you want to tap into any kind of wisdom or guidance that might be perfect for this audience or anyone whenever they are watching this right now? What's coming through for you as a
Okay, well, what I'd like to do is a quick little sort of visualization exercise with everybody. If we've got time for just that, it won't take long.
absolutely fantastic.
Okay,
I love it.
wonderful. So I might just ask you all to just close your eyes And just take a big deep breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth. And just allow yourself to relax. Another big deep breath in, filling up your lungs and stomach. And then just letting it all go. One more time, and just holding this breath for a second or two. And then just letting it all go. And I'd like you to bring your focus to your heart center. And I'd like you to imagine that within your heart center is a pink flame, just gently flickering, but warm, beautiful pink flame, just flickering within your heart center. And I'd like you to feel the warmth of this flame and the power of this flame. And as you focus on it, I'd like you to imagine that it's growing and enveloping you in its warmth and in its beauty and in its potential. And just feeling that beautiful pink flame surrounding and enveloping your entire body. And now moving out into your etheric body and your auric field until you're just a beautiful pink bubble full of love, full of optimism, full of hope, and full of potential. And I'd like you to imagine your beautiful pink bubble expanding even further until it covers your home and everybody who lives with you. And now expanding it a bit further until it covers your country and everybody who lives there. Beautiful pink, expanding energy, a pink flame or bubble enveloping all of you, all that you love, and all where you belong. And now spreading that energy even further until it envelops the entire planet. And just seeing our beautiful planet inside a pink flame of love, protection, optimism, and hope, cleansing and clearing our entire planet. So just feel this beautiful flame flickering around the planet, shimmering its beautiful warm light, making this energy available to every living thing on our planet. And now, just imagining leaving that pink light there, a bit like you might leave a light on in a room, keeping that little flame switched on at all times, deep within your heart center, but always ready to grow and expand and be shared with others anytime that you feel the need. This is your power. This is your contribution to our planet at this time and to everyone and everything that resides here. You are the love. You are the hope. You are the future. And now slowly bringing yourself back to today, back into your body with that beautiful pink flame flickering in your heart center. But coming back to your room now and back to today.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
What a lovely way to end. That was absolutely delightful.
Great.
So
You're very
I
welcome.
saw all sorts of beautiful, glistening pink energy moving into all these different spaces and places on the planet.
Good.
Yeah, really
Really needs
gorgeous.
it right now.
That's right, it does. Well, Deidre, it's been such a fantastic conversation. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us on the Inside Hustle interview series.
Thank you
And
for inviting me.
oh, well, it's just been such a pleasure. Let everybody know where they can find you. I also listed in the show notes under this video, but tell us where, just so that,
Okay,
people can look you up.
my name's Deidre Wilton, and my business name is Starwise Clairvoyant Astrology. So I have a Facebook page, I've got a YouTube channel, got my Instagram, I've got my, I think that's it. And yeah, so you can find me there on my website as well, www.starwise.com. So I'm available. I teach online and I teach in person as well. I do retreats and workshops as well as working with individuals one-on-one through healing processes and courses, as well as doing readings for you. I mean, my belief is that your astrology is the map of everything that you chose to be and do and experience in this lifetime. So once you know what you've come here for, it makes it so much easier to navigate the journey and the planets and everything that's going on. So
Mm,
you know, my job is to activate you, to wake you up and activate you so you can live the best life possible.
amazing. I love that. Well, thank you again. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. If you did, give us a shout out, put a comment or question, and we'll come back and keep an eye on those and answer them, whether it's Deirdre or myself. And so, yeah, give us a like if you enjoyed it and it was helpful. And we'll hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.